It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me once again is Chris Eberly. He's the director of the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership. WNAV was the first media partner in the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership. I believe we're still the only media partner.
That's correct.
Thanks, Chris, for joining me, and welcome back.
Glad to be back again. Thank you.
Birds, one of my favorite topics, certainly one of your favorite topics.
Yep.
You just had a symposium, and, you had to move it around a little bit thanks to the government shutdown, but you found a home at
Arlington Echo.
Arlington Echo. You found it,
Center,
yes.
Yeah.
How did it go?
It was great. It was just beyond what we had anticipated and expected and even hoped for. We had hoped to get about 50 people. We ended up with 110 people registered.
Nice.
About 30 of those were youth.
Uh-huh. That's amazing. That's actually amazing.
For the first one, and we're hoping this will be an annual event. And we got a lot of good feedback about that. But it was well attended. We had some great speakers. Mike Parr from American Bird Conservancy was our keynote speaker. We had sponsorships that we were soliciting, and we had a number of really good sponsors. And the sponsorship money was going to start a new conservation and research fund for youth. Mm-hmm. And again, we had hoped for maybe $1,000, $1,500, something like that. We ended up with $3,100.
That's
in
awesome.
that fund, which is incredible.
And how will the fund be used? What's the idea behind it?
The idea will be for youth to be able to submit a proposal application for some funding for a project that they want to work on that's related to either avian research or some conservation action. And it doesn't necessarily have to be here in Maryland, but it somehow connects with birds in Maryland.
So are you prepared to start accepting applications on this, or?
We will be soon.
Okay.
We're getting our committee organized and developing all finalizing the criteria, and then we'll put that out on the website, make announcements on Facebook and the newsletter and all that.
That's marylandbirds.org or Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership on Facebook.
Yep. So it should be ready fairly soon, and we're looking forward to getting some good applications. We already had a few youth at the symposium talk to me about what I think are some really excellent ideas. So I think this is going to really be a great boost to get some of these kids who are fantastic birders, but they also have an interest to take their passion into more than just the birding side, but to actually do some conservation-related activity. I
don't think people that aren't in the bird world realize how this whole field is growing in leaps and bounds. From straight birding, recording what birds you've seen when and where, and trying to get maybe as many birds on your list as possible for those that are doing a big year or a partial big year, or to those that just enjoy bird photography, myself included. I remember this past last summer, when was it, that we had Roseate Spoonbill, visiting us in right at the edge of Anne Arundel County in North Beach area. And I was there, and two youth drove up, and it was just really refreshing to see. I don't remember when I was a kid, kids into birding, and it's just refreshing to see. Yeah,
certainly when I was a kid, none of the kids I knew if they were into it, they would never admit it.
Never admit it. And these two had driven from Montgomery County to North Beach to see this bird, and the bird was worth seeing. That's just one of the spectacular visitors we've had in Maryland in recent history, and we do get a lot.
Yeah, we do.
Did you see the hummingbird?
No, I did not see the hummingbird. I did not see the spoonbill.
Chris.
I need to get out more.
You do. This is the birds are they're your thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the hummingbird. What kind of hummingbird was this?
Oh, my God. A rufus.
No?
No. Oh, calliope?
Calliope hummingbird. Yes,
right.
I'm so bad with the smaller birds. I can tell you larger birds.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I actually did go over to see it.
Good.
And the day I made it over to see it was, I guess I jinxed it. It was the last day it was here. Either jinxed it or not. Maybe it's a good thing it moved on to where it should be with other hummingbirds of its kind. It did not belong in Maryland.
It was just waiting for you to see it, then it knew it could go.
Maybe. All right, so the symposium, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back, because I want to hear what some of your speakers said, since I didn't get to go.
Okay, very good.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. I'm in the studio with Chris Eberly, the director of the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership, and they just had their first symposium. Lots of people attended, and they got a fair amount of money for a youth fund scholarship for a fund.
Great. Yeah, we're calling it the Maryland Avian and Research Conservation Fund for Youth. So MARC Fund.
MARC, okay. All right. So on the day that you were holding your symposium, I was at another bird-related thing. I couldn't make both, but I do want to hear some of the things that were discussed.
Well, Mike Parr, president of ABC, started things off, and he did a really good job of sort of tying everything together before we even had those other talks. But it's looking at, we had speakers from Audubon, Maryland, D.C., talking about some of the salt marsh work. Dave Curson was talking about the salt marsh work. There we had Dan Small and Myron Gimple from Washington College.
And they're banding birds. Is that what they were talking about?
Myron was talking about the 20 years of grassland bird banding that they've done and some of the phenomenal things that are happening over there, which it just
and I'm
really
ridiculously jealous for those that have ever mist netted or banded, and I do it quite often I help with an educational program. But the birds they're getting on the eastern shore, hawks and owls and nothing like what we're getting on the western shore here.
Yeah, it's and they have some grasslands over there that just are unparalleled anywhere else in the state. And the one thing I remember that Marin said is they had a dick sissel. Normally, dick sissels don't have what they call a strong sight fidelity, and I think in all the years people have banded dick sissels, they've only ever had one banded bird return to where it nested before. Well, over there at
Chestertown,
what do they call it now? The River and Field Campus, formerly Chino Farms. They had a dick sissel come back 5 years in a row.
That's amazing.
To nest in the same place. So they're getting things there that nobody else is getting. And then same with bobwhite, northern bobwhite. That's what Dan Small was talking about is the work that they're doing with a lot of it working with private landowners.
To reintroduce this bird.
Well, to reintroduce and to build better habitat and take some marginal farmlands out of production and put them into a habitat scenario for quail, and it's working very well. So
people understand what happened to this bird? What did happen to it? Where did it go? What happened?
Well, it's somewhat of a mystery. I think it depends where it was. There are a number of potential causes for some of the decline. Around here, most likely it was just loss of habitat. They require certain types of fields with edges, and with large-scale farming, a lot of the hedgerows and marginal shrubby areas next to fields were gone. So they're kind of reintroducing some of the historic habitat types and components, such as taking edges of fields that really aren't used but are still plowed, and just letting them, planting them actually with some of the native warm season grasses that things like quail like. Was this hunted?
Is it still hunted?
It is still hunted, yeah. So it's an interesting dilemma. But it is a great species to use for grassland bird conservation because it is such a favorite bird of hunters and non-hunters alike. And a lot of the landowners that the Washington College folks are working with talk about not hearing that call of the quail and just really wanting to be able to hear the quail, even if they don't hunt it. It's just sort of part of their folklore and culture. So it's an iconic species, and when you bring some of the habitat back, you're going to bring in a few other grassland species as well.
Fascinating. And you had some great talkers.
Yeah, so we had Beth Decker from Safe Skies, Maryland, talking about
the important work that they do.
Yeah, the collision and the windows, and then also talking about the advocacy part of the Maryland. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the name. Last year it was the Bird Friendly Building Act. I think it's the Maryland Sustainable Building Act. that they are helping to push through, and I guess that's coming up like within a week or two.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Chris Eberly, Director of the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership, on the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole, and in the studio with me is Chris Eberly, Director of the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership. It is bald eagle nesting season.
Yes, it is.
I've been told.
Yes, yeah, you've been told. No, it is bald eagle nesting season. We had a little surprising news, which I think is really good news. But previously, the number of bald eagle pairs that were estimated to be around the Chesapeake Bay area was about 1,600. Center for Conservation Biology, Brian Watts, over in Virginia, is the one who does these aerial surveys a lot to come up with these estimates. Mm-hmm. And he now says there are likely at least 3,000
Holy moly.
Pairs of bald eagles in the Chesapeake area.
Well, does he look at any of what we're doing? And I am including myself in the we. Full disclosure, I am a volunteer bald eagle nest monitor. Have you shared any of the data that we've been doing, our nest monitor?
He and I have talked,
okay.
And we're still in the process of trying to get our known nest into their database, okay, so it can be put on their website, and they're all in favor of doing that.
So the bald eagles are back in a major way. There are still threats out there, though.
Back, yeah. So I guess the other side of that 3,000 pairs, that means there's probably at least, and this is very conservative, at least 1,200 pairs in Maryland. Now, that's good news, but the bad news is we know about probably less than 300 of those nests. So there are obviously a lot of nests out there, and that's what we always are needing, more people to get out and find these nests and report them to us. We're getting a lot more people doing that, which is really good. I think currently we have 18 nests that are unassigned that are on our map out there for people to adopt, so to speak,
since
and
most
monitor.
of our listeners are in Anne Arundel and Queen Anne's County, do we have a fair amount in Anne Arundel and Queen Anne's County, or are they in for Western Maryland?
There are probably 4 or 5 nests.
Unassigned. In Anne Arundel?
Anne Arundel and Queen Anne's, yeah.
Go ahead.
So, and then another interesting thing is I got a call from a lady on Kent Island asking if I would do one of the workshops for Queen Anne's people. So we're trying to work on getting something in the next couple weeks.
Oh, that would help me tremendously, because I missed the one that I was supposed to go to. Okay.
She actually started a Facebook group. I think it was Friends of Kent Island's Bald Eagles.
Really? Okay.
So you may want to check that out.
I will be right on it after this.
And we're trying to attract people from Queen Anne's County for this workshop, which, I mean, the interest is growing, which is really good.
Yeah.
And from what this lady told me, there are a lot of nests that her people, so to speak, know about that we don't know about yet.
I don't dispute that. Actually, and I know that you may have shared the Blackwater post in recent history.
Yes.
They are inundated by bald eagles.
Yes, they are. So, and I now that the federal government is back at work, I need to connect back with my contact at Blackwater, to Matt Whitbeck, to start coordinating the nest there, because he coordinates all the bald eagle nest monitoring for me with the Blackwater nest.
And I just need to take some time off of work and go over to Blackwater to see the birds.
It's amazing.
I just couldn't believe, and I had 2 nests in Centerville. I think a lot of the birds that were in Centerville have moved over towards Blackwater. It's just a guess.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing as many in Centerville this year as I have in years past. I'm not spending as much time there, though.
Okay. Well, things certainly are dynamic in terms of food resources, food availability, and appropriate tree habitat for these birds.
Yes,
so
unfortunately.
They're going to go, but they are growing, and we just have to get a little help finding these nests. Now, another thing that, if I could put a plug in here, my one volunteer unfortunately had to step down, who was helping with the database aspect of things. Yeah. So we could really use a geek volunteer.
Computer-oriented.
Yes. Yeah. Somebody to help with downloading information when people submit nest visit data and all that, and updating our map and that kind of thing. So please get in touch with me if you're out there and have those skills and want to help out with a really incredible and growing program.
And that's in addition to the bald eagle nest monitors. And there's not a lot of time required. In the first one, there's probably a little bit more time. The geek volunteer.
Yeah.
The bald eagle nest monitor, not a lot of time involved in this. 3 visits.
3 visits.
20 to 30 minutes each. And that's what is required. And it helps the state and state partners know what's going on in the bald eagle world. So if something bad happens, like DDT or carbofuran, I was going to get that mentioned in there somehow. You knew that.
Yep. And then, Center for Conservation Biology just released the results of their periodic testing of the blood testing they do on baby eagles in the lower Chesapeake. And the good news is they continue to find noticeable drops in the contaminants that stopped eagles from reproducing in the past, including PCBs, heavy metals, organochlorine pesticides, lead and mercury. So our program, by monitoring these nests every year and documenting productivity, is well poised to be able to detect, as you said, if something gets into the environment again in the future. We'll have that baseline to know when and where some impacts are really starting to show up.
It's still an issue with not just bald eagles, but raptors, lead poisoning.
Yes,
and
yes, it is.
Pesticides, but lead is a big issue.
Yeah, lead and the other pesticides that kill other things, it results in what we call secondary poisoning, that the eagles are scavengers and they'll eat things that were shot, and if they were shot with lead, they ingest some of those lead fragments, and it's very toxic to any animal.
It's interesting. The Pennsylvania equivalent to our DNR has been very vocal about suggesting to hunters and anglers to switch out the lead. I don't see that happening in any other state but Pennsylvania, even though it does happen in every other state.
Yeah, it's another one of those interesting situations, and some places, I think out west, they have a little better luck with switching over to steel shot or some other equivalent. And I don't know what the bias is. I've heard things that some hunters believe that lead shot is more accurate. I don't hunt, so I don't really understand all the nuances of that. But it's bad for fish. It's bad for eagles. It's bad for humans.
And at the very least, the suggestion is to clean up gut piles, bury them if you are using lead. Clean it up, get it out of the way, make sure the birds aren't going to get to it.
Right. Yeah, that's usually where the problems lies with all the gut piles, and it just needs to be a little more effort to making sure that isn't available for scavengers.
Again, on the website, if you want to help in any way, the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership could use it. Right now, for sure, somebody that can help with entry of data into the computers and bald eagle nest monitors if you have some time. Again, the bald eagle nest monitoring doesn't take a lot of time. The website, marylandbirds.org, or on Facebook, Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership. We are, again, a media partner in the Maryland Bird Conservation Partnership here at WNAV. We will have Chris Eberly back. We often do have him here throughout the year in order to get our bird news.
And you are still the only media partner we have, and we're very grateful for that. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you every once in a while.
Thank you, Chris. This is Donna Cole in the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.